The meme this video is responding to is not saying that the Sabbath commandment is not repeated in the New Testament. So let's go through the verses and talk about it. The Sabbath commandment is found in Exodus chapter 20, verses 8 through 11. Ironically, the only commandment that begins with the word remember is the only commandment that Christians are trying to forget. Notice how this is the only commandment that identifies God as being the creator of heaven and earth. And according to Exodus chapter 3 and John 8:58, the God who gave the Ten Commandments here is none other than Jesus himself. So when you see scriptures like this one in Revelation 5:13 talking about God being the creator, it's a direct reference back to the Sabbath. We also see that connection in Genesis chapter 2, verses 2 and 3. Here we see it again in Revelation chapter 4, verse 11, identifying God as a creator, a direct reference back to the Sabbath commandment. Now here in Hebrews chapter 4, we see the Sabbath identified as the seventh day of the week. And I believe this is Paul writing here. He directly connects keeping the Sabbath as entering into God's rest. Therefore, if you're one of those claiming that the Sabbath has been done away with, but claiming that you're still resting in Jesus, that is not possible to do. We cannot rest in Jesus if we reject the Sabbath or any other of the Ten Commandments. But here's my favorite part. Again, Exodus 20 verse 11 identifies God as being the creator of heaven, earth, the sea, and all that in them is. Revelation 14 verse 6 identifies verses 7 through 12 as being the everlasting gospel. And notice how in verse 7 it quotes from the fourth commandment. This makes the Sabbath a part of the gospel. Why? Because the same truth Paul stated here in Ephesians verses 8 through 10, the fact that we are saved by grace, it's the same truth we see here in Exodus chapter 20 verses 8 through 11. The Sabbath shows us that we cannot save ourselves. We weren't there when God created the world, so we didn't help him do it. And we didn't help God come up with the plan of redemption, and we can't die for ourselves. The Deuteronomy 5 version shows us that the Sabbath is specifically connected with salvation. So those saying that the Sabbath is not repeated in the New Testament as a command are wrong. Let me also point out how the Sabbath commandment is the only commandment that has all three elements of a seal, a kingly seal: name, title, territory. For example, the current President of the United States, his seal would read something like, Joe Biden, President, United States. The Sabbath is the only commandment that lists God's name, the Lord, in the Hebrew that's Jehovah, Creator, his title, heaven and earth, his territory. The Sabbath is extremely important for these end times. It is going to be the test upon which all people in the world are tested. Are you going to pass it?